This is the J. Scott Outdoors podcast on Western big game hunting and fishing, brought to you by GoHunt.com Insider. Research faster, hunt more. Go to GoHunt.com/insider and use the J. Scott promo code when signing up to receive a $50 KUIU gift card. I'm your host, J. Scott, and I live and breathe hunting and fishing, spending half the year in the field experiencing God's creation. I hope you'll enjoy hearing about our adventures. Welcome to the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. Today we have the publisher of Western Hunter and Elk Hunter magazines, Chris Denham. Chris, how you doing?
Good, Jay. Good. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, you and I have been friends for, probably 15, maybe going on 20 years, and it's going to be great to have you on the podcast today. Chris, for those of the listeners out there that maybe don't know you, give me a little bit of a bio or background on kind of how you got your start in hunting, and then how that led through your different things that you were doing with your occupation, and then where it led you to where you're at now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's actually kind of a long story. Really, I grew up in Douglas, Arizona, and I was just one of those kids, like a lot of them, I'm sure just about everybody listening to this, is that you just love to hunt. Even before it was like the first thoughts you can remember having, you wanted to go hunting, even though I didn't come from a traditional hunting family at all. In fact, to this day, I'm really, besides my son, I'm the only one that still actually hunts in my family. But growing up in Douglas was just a great experience. Right down on the Mexican border. Then I went to work I met Cody Glenn when I was in 7th grade, working in the cafeteria, and his family. They're lion guides. They do hound hunts, dry ground lion hunts, coos deer hunts, and mule deer hunts. And Cody and I just became friends. I got to hanging out with him when we were in junior high, and then I started hunting with them when I was in high school, all the way up till all the way into college. And then after college, my wife and I had to move to Tucson, and I went to work just looking for a job. I went to work at a store called Jensen's Custom Ammo in Tucson, which was at the time was like the mecca of hunting in southern Arizona. It was the coolest hunting store around, and everybody loved to go to Jensen's. And I was thrilled to death to get a job there for $6 an hour with a college degree, and worked at Jensen's for in the retail store, then moved into management and worked in their wholesale division. Got to meet a lot of the sales reps in the industry. When it was time to move back up to Phoenix, I just put the word out to all the reps I was working with. I was looking for a job, and George Cornell, who was one of my reps, said, "Hey, I'm looking for somebody." So I went to work for George at GT Cornell and Associates, and some of our product lines were like Beretta and Swarovski. So I really got kind of into the hunting business through that, especially with Swarovski. I mean, at the time, Swarovski was, when I did seminars, I had to start by teaching everybody how to pronounce the name Swarovski. Then when I left the rep industry, I started guided for about 5 years. And then when the Outdoorsmans, we decided to make a catalog to kind of demonstrate the new products from Outdoorsmans, the new tripod, so on. And we decided to put some articles in there. And from that, Western Hunter was born. At the time, we called it Western Optics Hunter. So Western Hunter magazine was born from that. And then Mike Duplan and I had been talking for years about Elk Hunter magazine, starting Elk Hunter magazine. And about that time, Ryan Hatfield came on board, and we started Elk Hunter. And then not long after that, Nate Simmons came on board, and we started Western Hunter TV. So it's kind of a long story, but just a lot of things happened there.
Yeah, absolutely. And the success of not only the magazines but the TV show has been a huge success. Tell me how rewarding it is to have some of those businesses that you're involved in be successful.
It is absolutely a blast. I mean, it's a lot of work, and I know people appreciate it, but it's a ton of work. But I don't think I fully appreciate the impact and what we're doing until we go to some of the consumer shows, and we're actually talking to readers, talking to viewers, and how much they just love what we're doing. Especially on the TV show, it's the word that we hear 100 times a day is real. That we keep it real. And to be honest, when we started the TV show, I really wasn't that excited about it. I mean, like most people listening, there wasn't anything on outdoor TV that you were really got excited about watching. And I didn't envision being able to do it different. And then Nate kind of pitched the idea of what he was thinking. I was like, okay, that now he's got my attention. And we put the pilot together. And then I realized just how much talent Nate has, and what truly an artist he is, as well as in my opinion, one of the best bow hunters alive. And that's what I love hearing from people, that they appreciate what we're doing. One of the compliments I love the most is women love to watch our show as well, and I think because we show the emotion of hunting. But what I heard about 5 or 6 times this year, and I realized, I said, this is the best compliment we get. His wives come up and say, now I get why my husband loves to do what he does. By watching our show, they're able to see it without necessarily, going out there with their husband and, having to endure all of the stuff we endure when we're out hunting. They could sit there on the comfort of their living room and get that experience and really understand and appreciate what their spouse is why their spouse loves what he loves.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, from the beginning, did you guys set out to make it real, or did it just come out where, just your style, or was there an emphasis placed on trying to capture all of the emotion and of the hunt?
I think it wasn't necessarily a goal, but our goal was to just film what we do, and to kind of stick to what we do well, which is, and what we like to do, which is hunt public land in the West. And by doing that, it just comes through. And then the other thing that we love to do is, especially Nate and I, we love to go hunt new places, with the challenge of just showing up somewhere with, some maps on your phone, maybe, a map on the hood of the truck, and just get there and just figure it out. And the challenge of figuring out new country and new units is just what we love to do, and that comes through on the show, because that's what so many guys are doing, especially if you go out of state. A lot of times the first time you step into the unit is opening day, and you just got to figure it out. And we just love that challenge, and so I think the real part of our show is just a kind of a function of who we are and the style of hunting that we like to do.
Do you at times go on these hunts where you could probably do a whole lot more, research and, figure it out a whole lot more, but you kind of just go into it wanting to kind of have that, I'm new in the unit, I have no idea where to go, and that figure it out mentality? I mean, do you purposely maybe not prepare as much as you normally would if you were, going hunting or not?
I do. I say that for myself especially, and I know Nate does too. Nate will do a ton of work on Google Earth and pouring over maps, and Ryan will make a lot of phone calls. I do kind of just like to just show up, because for 2 reasons. I mean, if I talk to a lot of friends or, people that might know a unit, then it's kind of their area, it's not mine. and that can be really hard, especially when you're filming, because one of the things we do when we film is we kind of screw up our own areas, because we're giving, we're showing the big scenes, we're showing the mountain ridges, and eventually people will figure out where we're hunting. And if I go to friends or, ask for help, I'm kind of by default, messing up that guy's area, kind of giving his secrets away. So, I personally try to just go there and figure it out. Plus, there's a certain amount of prejudice that you develop when you get advice from other people about what areas you should be hunting and what areas you shouldn't be hunting. And sometimes you just have to get there and let your gut instincts as a hunter take over and just check out things. And I think by doing that, I find myself probably hunting areas that other people aren't hunting, and probably finding animals that other people aren't finding.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris, we live in Arizona, you and I both, and Arizona has been accused, and maybe rightfully so at some points, because our tags are so hard to get in a lot of different units. It's kind of known as a quote unquote trophy hunting state, and it's known as guys are just after the big antlers because we do have big animals here that get to grow up. How has your hunting, or if has it or has it not changed from that mentality of going out to try and harvest the best buck or the best bull or ram or whatever, and really nitpicking every part of the deer or the bull's characteristics, as opposed to just getting a tag in a western state and just going to try and enjoy the hunt for what it is? I mean, what kind of state are you in with your own type of hunting?
It's a great question, and it's something I think about all the time when I'm going. Because one of the things about going out of state to new places is it's not that my standards are down. It's just that I know I'm going to get to go each year. If I doing over-the-counter hunts in some states, you know how it is. I mean, hopefully this week my credit card gets hit from Arizona for an elk tag. Actually, if it doesn't rain pretty soon, I may hope I don't get hit. But if I do get a tag, this will be the first tag in 8 years for me. And my odds of getting that tag still, I'm probably only in the 10%, range. I'll probably still be 2 years. So by the time I actually draw a tag, it'll have been 10 years since I hunted elk in Arizona. When you only have a tag every 10 years, you do tend to be, you want to be picky. You want to have that maximum experience, and you want to put that big trophy on the wall, which is a little frustrating because that's, in my opinion, that just should not be in the top five, even in the top 5 reasons why we hunt. But really, to answer your question, nowadays, like when it comes to elk, in Arizona, I'd be a little pickier, but I mean, if it's a screaming bull and he's 320, 330 inches, he might be in trouble. Maybe not on opening day, but only not for that reason, only because it's tough to make a TV show when you shoot something on the first morning. It can be a pretty short episode, and not much drama, not much action. But when I go to Wyoming, or if I go to Wyoming or Colorado, if he's bugling, he's in trouble. If he's big enough and old enough to bugle, he is a target. And one thing I found, hunting in other states compared to say Arizona for elk, just to be specific about elk, is it's really hard. I mean, hunting elk in a general unit in Wyoming is really hard. Even in some of the limited entry areas that I've hunted. I mean, last year in season 3 here, we had an episode where I hunted in Wyoming, and I archery hunted there for 7, 8, 9 days, something like that. And I saw a decent 5-point was the best bull I saw. I mean, it was just hard. And of course, I went back in the rifle season and shot a bull. There was elk all over the place then, and it all worked out. But so I guess to answer your question, I'm less picky. I'm less pickier than ever. In fact, I don't even really think about score anymore. I just look at that. I just look at it and say, man, that's a nice looking buck. And if I say that to myself, boom, I'm off and running and trying to kill that buck.
That's great stuff. Let's take a quick break to hear from our sponsors.
Tired of relying on out-of-date numbers, spending too much on hunting consultants, and seeing too little results? With Go Hunt Insider, the old way of doing things is over. With the introduction of Draw Odds and Filtering 2.0, you'll have access to the most accurate, up-to-date information in the industry. You can filter by state, species, trophy potential, weapon, specific days or months of the year, harvest success rate, male to female ratios, and much more. All of this leads to easily finding the best hunt for you. So what are you waiting for? Visit gohunt.com/insider and join the movement.
Use the J. Scott promo code when signing up and receive a $50 KUIU gift card. Since 1982, the Outdoorsman's in Phoenix has made it their goal to provide the very best customer service combined with the latest and greatest optics and accessories in the business. Outdoorsman's is the leading designer and manufacturer of high-quality tripods and mounting accessories for any hunter's optical needs. Go to outdoorsmans.com or call 1-800-291-8065 and use the JScott promo code to receive 10% off all Outdoorsman's packs and pack accessories.
So, Chris, back to my last question. You answered it great, and I got your answer. But there's still guys out there that are very, very, trophy oriented. In your mind, do you think that's, because I find myself being very trophy oriented. Do you think that's somewhat short-sighted? Or do you think if you weren't filming a TV show that you might be a little more picky, or is it just the older you've gotten, you've just changed in how you want to, do your hunts?
Yeah, actually, probably a combination of both. I mean, certainly with the TV show, our kind of Nate and I talk about all the time. Our policy is when it comes to the size of the animal, which like if you're going to have a big smile on your face when you walk up to that animal, that's a trophy. But nothing against folks that are looking for the biggest thing out there, because I do get to hunt a lot. I'm hunting 60, 70 days a year. If you've only got 2 hunts, 2 hunts a year, and you've got 2 weeks to do it, and you at the end of those 2 weeks, if you don't kill something in, you passed up a bunch of good bucks, and you can walk away and say, I had a great hunt, then man, all the more power to you. In fact, I was just reading an article this morning on GoHunt.com about hunter satisfaction from hunts that there's not a harvest involved, and it was an enlightening article. It was a survey, and a lot of people. Basically all the respondents said, as long as they had, a great hunt, got to see animals in the wild, got to spend time with family, they consider the hunt a success. And, so in that case, all the more power to the guy that says, I passed up a bunch of good bucks, didn't shoot a trophy, but man, I had a great hunt.
Yeah, for sure. I think, I can see definitely both sides of the spectrum, and I think as you mature as a hunter, it seems like the older I get, the more that, I'm still trying to push myself to, somewhat discriminate and shoot the best trophy I can get. But I also, the older I get, I learn to look around and smell the roses a little bit and just enjoy every sunset and every sunrise. And because, life is short, and there's times when it may be your last hunt. We never know when we come out of the field if that was our last hunt. And I think a lot of times when you're just you're young and you're out there just trying to bang away, that you lose sight of smelling the roses as you go, so to speak.
Yeah, I agree, and it's something you and I have talked about, and you've talked about in other podcasts. Some of the things that are affecting hunters, and the perception of hunters out there, and one of the things that I think is really frustrating is basically Facebook and Instagram. When it comes to hunting, we don't post a lot of pictures of the flowers, of the squirrels, of the birds, of the sunrise and the sunsets. Everybody wants to, post the big grip and grin, of the animal. And to some degree, I think it almost diminishes the hunt, that it all gets the hunt, the summation of the hunt is the grip and grin shot. And because you just can't tell the whole story in one Facebook post, so we tend to minimize the entire experience down to one photo.
Yeah, I think you make a good point there. What do you think as far as social media, and how in your mind has social media kind of changed hunting for the better or for the worse? What are your thoughts about social media impacts on hunting?
Honestly, it's something I've looked at and thought a lot about, and I plan on writing an article about it, because I can't come up with a positive necessarily when it comes to, the hunting experience and what social media has done to it, outside of issues like being able to bring issues to the forefront. Whether it's conservation issues or predator issues, or say, wounded warriors trying to raise money or raise awareness, or, those are all great. But in general, social media, it's almost like an addiction for even on the small level. It's almost like an addiction. I mean, if anybody is really truthful about it, when they post something on Instagram or Facebook, within 2 hours they want to look and see how many people liked it. Because the more people that liked it must mean that your status is improved and increased.
You're moving up in the world.
Yeah, you're moving up in the world when you get 50 Instagram likes in 15 minutes, and it just drives people to do things that they just normally wouldn't do. And, there's cases of that, all over social media, of guys, trying to basically posers, to use the old skateboarding term, that they want to appear quote, bigger than they are because they're jealous of all the photographs that they're seeing. Because nobody really, even when it comes to like family photos, nobody posts the picture of the dirty diaper. They always post the picture of the smiling, happy kid,
Yeah.
And people start to think that everybody else's life must be great and everybody else is killing these big deer. And meanwhile, the kids are crying and the dog's sick and the bills are piling up and they shot a 2-point, and they don't feel good about themselves. So.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's kind of a double-edged sword. I feel like on one hand, like, with the millennials and the younger generation, they're all on social media.
Right.
So from one perspective, from trying to, retain hunters, trying to get, more people involved, keep the young guys, young gals in it, I think there has to be a presence of hunting and the outdoors and fishing on social media. But on the other hand, I do see exactly what you're saying, whereas, most Instagram accounts and Facebook accounts just show the grip and grin or the final, here's how my hunt went, when, so I think some of the better Facebook and Instagram accounts out there, kind of show the progression of the hunt, show the good and the bad, show the misses, show some of the heartache that goes along with it. And I would like to encourage people out there, because, whether we like it or not, social media is not going away. If anything, it's only going to get stronger and more prevalent in our society. But I would like to say, encourage people to try and, spend a little time, and capture the whole experience. And if you want to post away, but, maybe post more content, more about the experience than just, I went fishing, I fished for 3 days, here's the biggest fish, and they just show one big fish, and it's like, well, is that it? I mean, that's your whole trip is, summed up in one photo,
Oh, I totally agree. I mean, social media is absolutely here to stay. And there's like you said, the millennials all the way up to, 70-year-olds nowadays. I mean, my wife and I were at a Broadway musical over at Gamage Auditorium the other night, and we were sitting at the front row of the second level. And during the intermission, I looked down, and the average age in the room had to be 65 years old. It was a very old, much older crowd. And I looked down off of the balcony during the intermission, and I bet you 70% of those people, all you could see was their phones lit up. They were all looking at their phones, so it's across all age demographics, but especially in the millennials. The problem I see with the internet in general is just that there's kind of a lack of a filter. So there's stuff that's getting posted and sending out there that, man, we'd just like to see it done a little bit different, just like you're saying. One of the reasons like on our TV show that we had a lot of industry people tell us the first year is you don't show misses. You never missed. You're supposed to be a professional. And we're like, no, it's just not real. I mean, that's what happens. But, we try to show the entire process. And I'm hoping and that's why I think we do have a lot of 20-year-old, 18-year-old kids, 20-year-old kids, families watching the show, because we do try to show the entire, give you the entire experience as much as you can in 21 minutes.
Chris, last year, looking back on your hunts that you were involved with on the Western Hunter TV show, if you had to pick one, is there one that just stands out as your favorite hunt of the year? And if so, why?
Yeah, that is a tough question, because I had four hunts, I think, that'll be on air this year, and actually every one of my, when it was done, I was like, dang, that was a good hunt. That's going to make a good show. But one I'm actually probably the most excited to actually see on the big screen, on my TV screen, anyways, is a desert mule deer hunt that I did with my son, with Mark, and it's out in the West Desert, west of Phoenix, and just classic bighorn sheep country. We backpacked in, slept in sand washes, saw very few deer. So actually, we saw more desert bighorn sheep than we did deer. But it's just a place. I mean, you've been out there in that desert. You're spending a lot of time out there now. The sunrises and the sunsets and the desert, and the life that's in that desert that can appear so lifeless at a distance. It's just an amazing place, and I'm just super stoked to see how that comes out on the screen.
Are there times when you go on hunts like that and then, once you see it edited, you see it up on the screen, you're just like shake your head because you're like, man, I really didn't notice this or that at the time, and then all of a sudden Nate pulls it out and, puts this masterpiece together and it just really comes to full circle for you? Oh,
absolutely. Because the one thing when we're hunting, there's just two of us most of the time, unless there's, like my son might be with me. Sometimes we have two videographers, but most of the time it's one hunter and one videographer. And the hunter's job is to hunt, and the videographer's job is to film. And so a lot of times I'm just totally focused on what I'm doing. I'm glassing, and I can go an hour and not even know what's going on around me, except what I see through my binoculars. And so I don't even see what they're filming and what angles they're getting and what, sunset shots or sunrises they're getting. And then all of a sudden I see it, and I'm like, dang, I didn't even see that. I missed that, because I was so focused on my, looking through my binoculars. So yeah, it's I get as excited when Nate sends me the first link of a show. I'm just as excited as I can be to crank that. I mean, I drop everything I'm doing. I mean, I've seen links come up when I'm in the middle of a phone call, and I'll be like, hey, can I call you back in about a half an hour? I'm going to watch it right now. I get a total thrill out of watching, being able to watch and see the work that Nate and Randy and Kyle are doing.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Chris, I credit you for kind of you and a few guys kind of pioneering, if that's I don't know if that's the right word, but putting binoculars on a tripod, and it's kind of been a phenomenon now where it's really taken hold. And I can remember when you were a rep with Swarovski, and Dar and I got our first pair of 10x42 binoculars, and we put our binoculars on a tripod, and it basically, in my mind, totally changed my style of hunting, and my success went through the roof as far as compared to what I was seeing before. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the progression of back in the old days, so to speak, and kind of how it's progressed to where we're at now, and maybe talk a little bit about that style of hunting, because I know using my eyes and great optics on a tripod is if you can master that, you can hunt anywhere in the world.
And that's a truly accurate statement. I think being able to glass off the tripod and be patient and figure out, looking on a map and just looking at terrain and figuring out where a good glassing point is, I literally think it would triple a guy's success. If he already had good hunting skills and wasn't using a tripod and he went to a tripod, he'd probably, I guess, literally triple his odds of success, mostly because I can still vividly remember the first day I put a pair of binoculars on a tripod. And I was working in Jensen's down in Tucson, and that's really, I think that was where tripod glassing was born. I mean, there was some gunsmiths down there that started machining tripod adapters for binoculars. This is going back, 30 years now. And that first day, I went from seeing 20, 25 deer a day to seeing 60, 70 deer a day. I mean, I was literally tripling the number of deer. So, therefore I figure my odds are probably tripled. But the key really in what people think it's just, it's maybe, it's because you can glass longer. That's true. Maybe you're more comfortable while you're glassing. Yeah, that really helps. But the secret is being able to have everything stable, except what's in front of you. Because your eyes, 99% of your eye is there to detect motion. Only 1% of your vision, the very, very middle, what they call the foveal vision, is actually in pure focus and in good color. I mean, 99% of your vision is blurred and in black and white. And so being able to have everything completely still, your eyes are, the other 99% of your eyes are actually able to do what they're designed to do, which is to pick up motion. And especially in low light.
Chris, let's take a quick break here to hear from our sponsors again, but I've got a few questions to ask you about that.
Sure.
Have you guys heard about PhoneScope? PhoneScope is a privately held company that makes custom-molded, precisely engineered smartphone digiscoping adapters. Photographing wildlife has never been easier. Take digiscoping photos and videos from your smartphone and share them with your friends. PhoneScope stands behind their product with a 100% money-back guarantee. PhoneScope is the future of digiscoping. Get yours now. Use the JScott16 promo code and receive 10% discount on all purchases. Check them out at PhoneScope, that's PhoneSkope.com, or on Instagram at PhoneScope. Wilderness Athlete is committed to improving the health and quality of life for the outdoor athlete by providing field-tested, scientifically validated nutrition and sports performance products. Check them out at wildernessathlete.com and use the JScott promo code to receive 10% off any order.
So, Chris, that's some great stuff that you're talking about your eye picking up the movement. So, if you're not on a tripod and you're hand holding, walk me through this thought process. You're hand holding, so you're getting a little bit of vibration, you're getting a little bit of shake, and so your eye is trained to pick up movement. But if you have a little bit of handshake, or what have you, your eye is not going to pick up that movement near as good as it will if you're stationary on a tripod. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. Again, that 1%, is scanning and looking, and you will still be able to pick up animals because your brain, you've trained your brain to see those animals. But when everything about your optics and your eyes is totally steady, and then you're basically allowing your eye to pick up that motion. And it's one of the reasons even when I'm on a tripod, I try to force myself to look at an object, whether I think it's a deer or javelina or whatever, even if I don't even think it is, just stare at that for a few seconds and see if you pick up motion, in the rest of the field of view.
So in other words, your brain, you have picked up what you think might be a deer because you saw some sort of movement, and then at that point you try and take the 1% and then focus on that specific thing for 2 or 3 seconds just to identify, yes, is it what I'm looking for or not?
Yes, and while you're doing that, while you're looking, trained on that one specific spot, your eye is completely steady as well as the binocular. So the rest of that field of view, all of a sudden, boom, you see that little bit of movement. And well, this time it was a bird. That time it was a rabbit. And all of a sudden you go, wait, that looks like a deer's ear. And you scan up to that, and sure enough, you see that flicker again, and you found a bedded doe, but where all you could see was basically her ears.
So if I'm hearing you right, Chris, when you sit down to glass, you're scanning and you're looking, but you have trained your eye to anything that moves, you focus on it, determine if it's a deer or a buck or a ram or whatever, and then if not, you keep moving and keep glassing till you see more movement, or until your eye sees, the horizontal shape or whatever you've trained your eye, as the quarry you're after.
Yep.
So in other words, you're not just panning around, you're looking for movement through your binoculars.
Yes. Yep. Looking for movement. And I think just one other point on glassing. I know we didn't really get on with the idea of talking about glassing a whole lot, but I think a lot of people are under the impression that somebody has really good game eyes, that they're blessed. They can just see animals better than other people. I don't think anybody was born with a skill that's any better than all of us. We're all predators. We've all got eyes in the front of our face. We're all predators. We're born with that capability. But the guys that are really good are the ones that basically learn to glass by studying animals. It's almost like when you start to read in the first grade, you put your finger on every letter and you sound out every letter until you figure out what the word says. And then you go to the next word. And then by the time you get to second grade, you don't have to use your fingers anymore. By the time, you're in high school, it's a proven fact. You're only looking at every fourth or fifth word. And even of those words, you're only looking at 2 or 3 letters of a word, and your brain just fills in all the gaps because it's already seen that word before it recognizes that word, and your brain just reads it, without, you're not having to do all those manipulations. I think finding animals in the field is the same way. Once you've studied animals through binoculars and you've looked at them enough times, all of a sudden you see, just the inside, the white on the inside of a deer's leg, you see that white and your brain says deer. Just right away you recognize it as a deer because you've seen that deer in that position so many times. So I truly believe glassing is a skill that can be learned, not a talent we're born with.
I think that's a great point, and I think, like you said, the more you do it, the better you become, and the more that you train your eye for looking. I mean, I get reminded of that a lot of times when I have people that come and hunt coos deer with us or sheep or what have you, and we sit down and we're sitting right next to them and our client, and, it's just breaking day, and I'm just scanning, panning around, looking, and I may have seen, 8 or 10 deer, and I'm just, power scanning and really looking hard, and I look over and, just because I'm totally concentrating, I look over and someone, the client will say, "Have you seen anything?" And in my mind, I'm thinking, "Are you kidding? There's deer everywhere." But the reality is, for one, I'm kind of in that element that I'm used to. If I went to the country where the client was from, it would probably take me a while to gain some confidence and be able to be, moving quickly in my binoculars and, looking for those signs that, boom, there's a deer. Whereas, if I go in their country, maybe it's going to take me quite a bit longer to gain that confidence to be able to acquire my target. I want to ask you about at first light when you get up, let's say you're coos deer hunting, you get up to a high knob and you sit down, it's just breaking day where you can barely see with your binocular. At that point in time, are you going slow or are you going fast as far as, say, the first 15 minutes of light?
I go fast in the first 15 minutes. I cherry pick. I mean, there's areas I'm looking at this view in front of me, and there's 4 or 5 spots that I look at and I go, I bet there's a deer there. And what I do is I go look at every one of those spots and as quick as I can look at them. And, half the time there are deer there because your brain just kind of looks at country and it's seen deer in those scenarios before. So sure enough, there's deer there. But I do that for 2 reasons. First of all, because there probably is going to be, I'll probably see something there. Second of all, if I don't do that, I find myself rushing through. If I, setting up a grid, if I set up a grid and I don't go see those cherry spots first, I find myself rushing through everything just to get to those spots. So I'm like, all right, just go look at them, get it out of my system. If there's something there, figure out what it is. If there's nothing there, at least I can say, all right, now it's time to get down to work. and, set up pick out a spot, start my grid, and, just start covering country slowly and meticulously.
I think that's a great point, and I fight myself. I'm a grass is always greener on the other side. I fight that in every aspect of my life. I fight that in, sitting down glassing and my hunting. And I think you make a great point that if, you basically have a big field of view, and when you've been walking up to your point, or as soon as you can turn and look, you automatically go, man, right over there looks good, right over there looks good, right over there looks good. Well, you can't look at it all. And so I think that's great advice for people to go ahead and take 10 or 15 minutes and just hit those great looking spots that you say that there should be a deer there. But then you bring up a point of going to your grid. Can you walk me through, do you start from left to right, top to bottom, kind of, does each terrain dictate, differently, or do you, systematically, do you normally, have one way that you do it?
Yeah, it really depends on the species. Like if I'm sheep hunting, I'm going to start from the top, work my way down. I'm a left to right kind of guy, so I always seem to start on the left side and work my way to the right side, and then just drop down a half a frame and start working my way the other direction. But like deer and elk hunting, where most of the time I feel like I'm going to probably see things in the lower half of whatever the elevations I'm looking at. I'll start in the bottom and work my way up, and then try to force myself to look really close, inside 200 yards for, at least 15 minutes with my naked eye. Really look at what's right below me. I know it's happened. I'm sure it's happened to you 100 times where they're glassing, and then all of a sudden you hear something, and dang, you look down there and there's a doe standing 50 yards below you, and
yeah,
like, man, she had to have been there the entire time, or just worked her way up there. But so, anyways, I'm a left or right kind of guy, and up and down just depends on the species. But generally, I try to start down, because start closer, especially in the morning, because closer you got better light. I mean, when you've got bad light, it's a lot easier to see things closer than far. And by the time the sun's starting to come up, you've got a little more light on the mountain to see better at the longer distances at the higher parts of the mountain.
Yeah, and I those Etch-a-Sketch boards that 20 years ago, there were those, like, I think they're Etch-a-Sketch, and when I don't know if it was graphite or what, but you could draw little things. But then when you went to erase it, you kind of took broad strokes and you kind of swept it out of the way, if that makes sense. And I try and explain that to people that at first, the first 15 minutes, I'm the same way you are, Chris. I'm panning, I'm glassing quick, I'm looking at those key spots. Then I don't really have a left or right, but when I then pick, like, let's look at that hill, I typically start kind of at the top and then just start basically picturing my field of view as a paintbrush and just painting and brushing my way all the way so I cover that hill. Then I move over to the next hill, start either at the top or the bottom, and brush my way. And I think with the panning tripod heads that are out these days, with the Outdoorsman's has a great panning head, I would encourage people to pan left to right or right to left rather than up and down. And that's just my opinion. I was wondering if you could weigh in on that from a steadiness standpoint, panning left to right or right to left as opposed to up and down.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think for me especially, and it's one of the reasons why I prefer a pan head to a pistol grip head, is I like to be able to set the friction on the head just tight enough that I can just touch it with my nose and just move over a half frame at a time. There's one thing I found: as soon as my hand touches the tripod, I'm like a kindergartner with ADHD. I mean, I'm going to be moving that thing all over the place, and you just don't get, you start, like you're saying, you're trying to paint the wall and you're just painting spots,
Right. It's like a shotgun approach. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not near as thorough if you're just shotgun. Our first 15 minutes of glassing, at prime time is basically shotgun approach, but it's shotgunning in areas that our eye picks up as, those are key areas where deer are going to be moving. And then I try and kind of slow down and say, okay, we're going to now go a lot slower, and I'm going to just grid and pan and work my way through, and I'm going to literally glass every bit of hill or country or terrain that I can see. And it's amazing when and I'd like you to weigh in on this. If you're not, especially coos deer hunting, if you're not seeing stuff, I just tell myself, slow down. And I always laugh at myself because it seems like within a minute or two, boom, I pick something up just because I've finally slowed down and I've really started concentrating and trying to pick up that movement like you were talking about earlier.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. When especially coos deer hunting, because the reality is, if you're in coos deer country, there are coos deer there. I mean, there's not. I'm sure that's happened to me at some point in time, but I cannot ever remember it, where you sat down and you did not see a deer. I mean, the deer are there. You're just not seeing them. So if you're not seeing them, it's because you're probably going too fast. You know, you're not allowing your eyes to relax and pick up and do the work in the way they're designed to do their work.
For sure. Chris, I want to transition just a little bit. And you have, over the years, been involved in a lot of different conservation organizations. And I would like to get your answer. If you were explaining to a non-hunter why a hunter is the biggest advocate of conservation, it seems like kind of the media these days and non-hunters, they don't understand that. And I was wondering, as much experience as you have with conservation and supporting and, being, the head and the president or whatever of some of these different organizations, you have seen it from the ground up. What would your answer be?
Really, we're vested. We have a vested interest in game populations being sustainable and growing where growth is sustainable, because it's what we do. It's what we love to do. We love to. Back to that survey I was reading this morning. One of the things that gave people the most satisfaction was just watching animals in the wild, watching animals do what animals do. And the kill being a way less significant part, or significant or subordinate to the idea of just being able to watch animals do what they do. Hunters are, we're naturalists, whether we admit it or not. We love to just watch wildlife and be able to see vast, just quantities of wildlife, quantities of species, and just watch that natural interaction, of nature. It's been and it's one of the reasons why a lot of states, Arizona gets hammered pretty hard, and about the non-resident hunters and being unfair to non-residents. And though I understand that, because I'm a non-resident in every state but Arizona, and I hunt more out of Arizona than I do in Arizona. But it's important, in my opinion, to keep hunting for the resident attainable, because when people don't hunt, they lose interest and they're not vested anymore. So they kind of quit caring. Though we may care more than a non-hunter or an anti-hunter, just the opportunity to be out there just instigates more of that passion and keeps hunters involved in wildlife management. And it's something that from a conservation organization standpoint, I think it's really important for conservation organizations to exist, to basically keep the departments accountable to what their mission is. And a lot of folks might have the opinion, well, because the guy's got a college degree in wildlife management, that he knows a lot more than you do. So but even a really smart wildlife manager realizes that a guy that spent 40 days in his unit glassing probably knows more about what's going on in that unit right now than he might. And so hunters and sportsmen, we're a valuable asset to wildlife management agencies, but we have to stay involved and we have to stay organized in order for our voice to have some authority and some power behind it.
I think that's well said. And, I think the sad truth is, the reality is that unfortunately, in a lot of these conservation organizations, there's a handful that do all the work, and the majority of the public, a lot of times, they don't support these groups either with their time or with their dollars. And what would you say, or how would you encourage people to get involved? And, do you also see that being a little bit alarming where, a handful of people are doing all the work and a bunch of the sportsmen are just, quote unquote, being lazy and letting other people do the work for them?
Yeah, it does concern me. It concerns me at a grand scale as well. I mean, we're seeing it right now in our elections. I mean, in this country right now, you're either red or you're blue, and I'm seeing that trickle all the way down to wildlife management, wildlife organizations. If some particular wildlife conservation group does one thing that a guy doesn't, this one sportsman said, well, you should have supported this issue. But they took an opposite view of them. They say, well, I can never belong to your organization because you guys did this, or you guys did that, or you didn't support this, or you did support that. So they throw the baby out with the bathwater and say, well, I cannot support you for this one very specific reason that affected me personally. And, if that were the case, I mean, everybody would have to be their own conservation organization. We'd have a couple million conservation organizations with membership of one.
Yeah.
It's just it's an alarming trend that people feel like somebody has to agree with you 100% or they are the enemy. And the NRA fought that for years, and we're seeing it way too often in our country right now, is especially in the hunting community, where it's hunters on hunters, and it's conservation organizations against conservation organizations. They're all fighting for some kind of territory and for some kind of mind share. And in my opinion, they're forgetting what the resource. They're forgetting why we all started the organizations and what our ultimate goal might be.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's very well said. I think, I couldn't agree with you more, and looking at politics, looking at, we're all humans and we're all going to make mistakes and we're all going to have differing opinions. And just because I feel very strongly about something, it doesn't mean that it's right. It means that I think it's right, but it very well could not be right. And that maybe, talking to some of my other fellow sportsmen and getting their opinion, and, and sometimes the majority isn't right. But, I think it's easy to, fall on one side or the other and draw the line in the sand. And if you don't agree with me on this, then we're just not friends. I mean, you see it all the time, like on Facebook. If you do this, then just go ahead and unfriend me on Facebook. And it's like,
yeah.
I mean, golly, I have friends that in all aspects of my life that agree with me on things, and I have friends that they're some of my best friends, and we don't agree on a lot of things. I think the tolerance out there, and taking this question one step further, is there's kind of like hunter envy or hunter hate out there, where hunters are hating on other hunters, and it goes right to what you were saying, where if you don't agree on this one thing, then we're no longer friends. You're an enemy. You're over in this class, and let's mock this guy, or publicly let's say this guy's a dirtbag because he believes this, that, or the other. And we have to just shake ourselves up and say, wait a minute. We're all outdoorsmen. We're all sportsmen. We're all hunters. We're all fishermen. We can't be fractured. So I was curious your take on kind of the, hunters hating on other hunters and that whole thing.
Yeah, it is way too prevalent out there. I've often said if an anti-hunting group came out and wanted to ban hunting rabbits on the third Sunday in November, every anti-hunting group in the entire country would support them and say, awesome, let's do that. Whereas you take the hunting community and you say, and they come up with a proposal. Well, 80% of the people say, well, that's not a great idea. That's a dumb idea. And so we want to somehow, for some reason, we want to tear each other down. And whether in the hunting community, it's high fence, whether, I can't support high fence hunters. I can't, I won't have anything to do with somebody that hunts on private land. I can't, going on a guided hunt is somehow less than, doing it yourself. It's like people, they don't want to, they want everybody to hunt and appreciate the lifestyle of hunting exactly the way they do. And if you don't enjoy it the way I do, there's something inherently wrong with you. And it is really frustrating to watch what hunters are doing to each other. And I just went on just a few weeks ago, I was a group of us went over to Texas hog hunting, and it was all bow hunting, and we had a ball, but it was a high fence hog hunt. We had an absolute blast, and sure, there's guys that show up there and, it wasn't going to be an episode of Western Hunter, but we had an absolute blast over there hunting hogs and just having a good time, with friends and family.
Yeah, I think we as a group, we need to be more tolerant of other people, and there are certainly, one of the things I like about going to the SCI convention, it's been here close to my house the last couple of years in Vegas, is it's amazing for me to walk around at SCI and see people from all over the world that hunt completely different than I do, and some that hunt virtually the same styles as I do. But one thing that I think is so cool is that there's people that you can walk by hundreds and hundreds of booths and see the passion for hunting. And granted, there may be a guy from, this area of the world or this area of the world where we may think that, we're not going to hunt that way, or that method of take isn't how we do it. They walk and see the same thing with us, and it's like, I just think it's awesome to know that there's hunters all over the world. And sometimes I think we need to get out of our own little box that we live in and realize that when you go, over to Africa, that you're going to get someone that's just as passionate about hunting as you are. Or if you go to the Midwest, I hear people in the West a lot, they're tree stand hunters. That's not hunting. Well, if you lived where they lived, that would be your only choice to hunt because of what they have to deal with. And I think I like going to SCI because it opens my eyes to there's a lot more out there than, what's in my world here in Arizona or even here in the Western United States. There's more than, there's a million ways to skin a cat, in other words.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, people, like you said, the tree stand, talking about tree stand hunting is a classic example. Guys, it's like, yeah, that's not really hunting. Well, when you put in the hours and time that those folks put in, to figure out, even just to find a place to hunt, it's miraculous. I look at their drive to hunt, and I'm thinking, man, they might have a stronger drive than I do. Because all I got to do is in Arizona here is drive half an hour from the house, and I'm on public land, and I get to go hunting. They've got to work sometimes for years, to put a piece of property together and do their own management on there to actually, improve the deer hunting and the habitat for deer. We've got to start, and it's got to, it just starts with one person at a time, saying that hunters need to appreciate and enjoy each other's company and accept our differences and enjoy our similarities, but accept our differences just for what they are. And
absolutely, that's a great point. Yeah, they're not bad people, exactly. They just do it differently than what we do it.
Right.
And the way we do it. Let's take another quick break here.
Okay.
Utah Hydrographics is in the water transfer printing service, and they are open to whatever you can dream up. Choose from a wide range of camo patterns, designs, and colors. Whether it's guns, bows, tools, rifle stocks, vehicles, steering wheels, fenders, dashboards, paint guns, fishing rods, cups, tripods, watches, knife grips, helmets for a local sports team or for your motorcycle, picture frames, mailbox, animal skulls, you name it. they can probably do it. Utah Hydrographics loves taking things that are general looking and turns them into something that looks fantastic and eye-popping. Give them a call and see what they can do for you and receive up to a 10% discount by using the JScott16 promo code. Visit them at utahhydrographics.com or on Instagram at Utah Hydrographics. Whether you are interested in elk, deer, antelope, bighorn sheep, or moose, Western Hunter and Elk Hunter magazines will bring the adventure to your mailbox. These publications feature articles on the finest hunting gear, tips and tactics from experienced hunters, field judging trophies, glassing techniques, calling strategies, and much more. To become a more knowledgeable and skilled hunter, subscribe today. Go to westernhunter.net/jscott and enter your email address for a chance to win a $1,500 credit towards any Swarovski product.
Chris, I want to ask you about this upcoming fall season, if there's any particular tags or hunts that you're hoping to draw, or any hunts that you have on the calendar already that you're looking forward to.
Basically like everybody else, we're sitting here waiting for draw results. Like I mentioned earlier, I've got enough points in Arizona to be hopeful that I might draw an elk tag. But if not, I'm hoping I can draw a tag in New Mexico. We haven't actually even filmed an episode in New Mexico yet, and we're really wanting to. So hopefully we get lucky and do that. Nate and I are trying to put together a trip up to Kodiak to go hunt blacktails, which I'm super excited about. I think if we can put it together, it'll be the first hunt that I've ever been on that is truly wild. Even a lot of the backpacking hunts I do, if give me 8-9 hours and I could be back in a truck. It's
right.
It's wild, and you're in the backcountry, but when you're 8 or 9 miles away versus being in an area where a plane may not be able to pick you up for 5 days. That's going to be a totally different experience for me. So I'm really hoping we can put that together. Of course, I'm always going to cruise deer hunt somewhere. So I hope, I'm sure I'll have a tag in Arizona. I'm really thinking hard about trying to get down to Mexico again. I haven't been to Mexico in about 5 years. Try to get down to Mexico and do some cruise deer hunting. But I just got to kick back and wait and see what the draw results give me.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'm really looking forward to turkey season right around the corner here. I've got a bunch of turkey hunts lined up, and it's one of my favorite seasons of the year. So I love this time. I wish it would go by a little faster here. It seems like March for me, February and March kind of drags along because we get off those great goose deer hunts down in Mexico the end of January, and then February and March are pretty slow, and really looking forward to April and May coming up with the turkey hunts. What gear are you using? Any gear right now, or anything, any special things that you're using that you need to tell the listeners about, as far as any new gadget or anything you've got that you're really hepped up on?
Well, we're using the new Browning speed line of Hell's Canyon speed line of clothing. We've used it this past year, and we're super excited about it. It worked really well for us. Browning's been a great company to work with. One other thing, hopefully by the time this podcast airs, Cody over at the Outdoorsman's will have the new long range hunter pack out, which he's done some great work on that pack. Nate and I looked at it at the Salt Lake City show for the first time, and we were both just super stoked. He's really listened, and I think he's built what will be the best outdoorsman's pack for an extended trip type hunts where you're going to be gone 4, 5, 6, 7 days. Super excited about that one. And then, other than that, from our product lines, that Gold Zero's got some cool new products out that we're excited about using on hunts. That was the new Matthews bow, the new Halon 6. I've been shooting that, and I am just super stoked about that bow. I think it's the best bow that Matthews has ever built. It's ridiculously quiet, fast. Over in Texas, I had 3 shots of 3 hogs, made all 3 solid shots with clean pass-throughs. I need I need some confidence going into the archery season. I've been skunked on archery hunts here for a while, and I feel like I finally got a system put together that at least I can't blame it on the equipment after this point.
Yeah, does that new bow, is it real smooth in your hand like a typical Matthews bow?
Yeah, it's even more dead in your hands. I mean, when the shot goes off, considering it's a true speed bow. I mean, I actually turned the poundage down to get the speed down to that 285, 290. I was up over like 310 with a fairly heavy arrow, and I'm only a 27.5-inch draw. I mean, when the shot goes off, the bow is just dead in your hand. It's super smooth. And then they've got the Halon X coming out, which hopefully I'll have one here in about 3 or 4 weeks. Nate got to shoot it at the ATA show and felt like it was even, for him, he felt like it probably is going to be a better bow than the Halon 6 is right now.
That's cool. Well, and what's going on over at Wilderness Athlete, Chris?
Oh, man, everything's happening at Wilderness Athlete. Man, things are just growing like crazy over there. We've got some new products that are going to be coming out this year. The new flavors of Energy and Focus and Hydrant Recover have been an absolute hit. I just love the new flavors.
What's your favorite?
My favorite right now is probably the new Hydrant. The new Hydrant Recover is the strawberry. We call it the strawberry Granada, and then the Energy and Focus is Tropical Fusion. I would say those are my 2 favorite flavors by themselves. But what I'm more excited about is that each one of them, we have the product, we call it a Superman when you mix Hydrate Recover and Energy Focus together. Each one of those products, when you mix them back with the older flavors, they're even better. So there's like 14 different combinations you can make a Superman now, and every one of them is awesome.
That's great.
The whole concept of the hunter athlete, I'm really stoked to hear and see that sportsmen are spending more time and more energy thinking about their health and wellness and their baseline health, and taking vitamins, exercising, taking their supplements. Because it really does, especially as we age, it's just so dang important to pay attention to your body. Mark Paulson's always saying the most important piece of equipment you own is you. And for hunters, that's absolutely true. You got to take care of number one first.
Yeah, and I mean, even taking hunting out of the equation, just being good to yourself is important. Being healthy, because you can't hunt if you're not out in the field, and if you're unhealthy and you get sick and you've got health issues, that keeps you out of the field.
Yeah, I mean, even if you don't do it for yourself, do it for your family. If you really want to, be there for your kids, be there for your grandkids, you got to start taking care of yourself now. And there's a real a growing awareness within the hunting community of paying attention to your health.
Absolutely. Well, buddy, it's been great having you on. I really appreciate the sponsorship from Western Hunter and Elk Hunter magazines. You guys have been great to me, and obviously a Wilderness Athlete, also a sponsor. Just want to thank you for that, and keep up the great work with the TV show and the magazines and all the different things that you've got going on. I think you're a great ambassador for our sport, and just want to commend you on the work that you've done over the years, and keep doing what you're doing, and just thanks for coming on and spending time with us here.
Hey, you bet, Jay. Thanks for the opportunity. It's been fun. It's been fun talking, and hopefully we get to do it again.
Absolutely, buddy. Sounds good. God bless you till I see you next time, and yeah, go keep knocking them dead, buddy.
Thank you, sir.